Now we're going to be looking at the medications that are used in osteoporosis. Generally, we're going to classify them into two different mechanisms. First, we have anti-resorptives, and second, we have anabolics. Anti-resorptive just means we are minimizing osteoclasts and its activity of cutting down bone. Anabolic, we are building bone, so we're kind of overall increasing the activity of osteoblasts. And then finally, we have this last medication that does both anti-resorptive and anabolic. This is a diagram that kind of shows what happens during bone remodeling. In a young adult, inevitably, we're going to have fractures occur. So here we have a place where maybe the bone was weakened, there was stress there. So the osteoblasts and the osteoclasts will work together to fill this area up. And that's what that pink is showing. In age-related bone loss, in medication-induced osteoporosis, disease-induced osteoporosis, we have a misbalance between the osteoblasts and osteoclasts. So we have these pores here that we have a lot of osteoclast activity going, but as you can see, it's only filled up a little bit, not enough. So this is going to be at an increased risk to have fractures. Now we have some drugs that can help to prevent this. First, we have the anti-resorptive medications, and what is happening here, remember, it is preventing osteoclasts from kind of overworking. So we do have some reserved bone here, but we don't really fill up the whole space because we're not adding new bone. We're just affecting the osteoclasts. We're stopping them from going overboard. Now we have the anabolic class of medications that could be divided into two groups. Here, this is new bone. This occurs in drugs like the drugs that are acting as parathyroid hormone analogs. You'll understand more as I start to talk about the drugs. But really right here, we're just adding bone on top of bone. So it's possible that maybe there's some disease bone, or not disease, but fractured bone or weakened bone here. But we're simply kind of putting a Band-Aid on it. And then over here, on the left side, we have, we're increasing more osteoblast activity versus the osteoclast. So what happens is we're filling these gaps here, but then also we have new bone. So we are affecting both osteoblasts and osteoclasts. And this is going to be the newer drug. And once we go through all of the medications, you can go back and maybe write down what each medication goes where to kind of help you remember. The physiology of bone remodeling is complicated. We don't exactly know everything about the process, but I'm going to simplify it for you because it's going to help you remember how these osteoporosis medications work. So right here, I'll just point out we have calcium. That's important for healthy bones. And this whole process begins by osteocytes here. So when there is stress on the bone from you running or walking, the osteocytes can feel that, and they release this thing here. It's called the RINK ligand, or the receptor activator of nuclear factor kappa beta ligand. And this here is going to bind to this receptor, the RINK. This RINK receptor is found on stem cells, and when this binding occurs, then we have a mature osteoclast. And all this here that occurs inside the cell, it's just a signaling that tells the osteoclast to release some enzymes here to break down the bone. Now, once that cavity in the bone is created, then we have the osteoclast alerting the osteoblast to form new bone and fill in the cavity. So at this time, osteocytes and osteoclasts are going to release a signal to alert the osteoblast and also prevent any more degradation. So one of those alerts or signals is going to be OPG, or osteoprotectogen, and this binds to any rank L's out there. So here, so that we can stop it from binding, and then ultimately there is less osteoclast activity, so that the osteoblast can continue to build bone. Some other things I want you to note here is we have sclerostin here, and we have parathyroid hormone. These are some signals that you'll understand more when we talk about the drugs that are going to stimulate the release of rank ligand. And then we also have estrogen and calcitonin, and this has the opposite effect. Here we're looking more at bone formation. And again, we have various factors that kind of cause the osteoblast to be differentiated. And it's part of the WNT signal pathway, where we have the parathyroid hormone here that causes this to couple with LRP. And eventually, you get all these signals. Don't get too caught up on the details. But what happens is that we have these target genes that are going to produce the proteins that can make the bone. And on the other hand, here we have mechanisms, or here on the right side, we have mechanisms to stop the osteoblast from doing its job. So after a while, after that cavity is filled, basically, we have this inhibitor here. It's part of a pathway that's going to stop WNT from coupling here, so then it doesn't go through this pathway here, and we don't get new proteins to build new bone. So this is one of them. Another one here is sclerostin. This also is gonna prevent this. It's going to prevent WNT from binding and causing this cascade of events. So from looking at this, we kind of already see where we can use drugs to either mimic some of these markers or mimic some of these signals to either help promote osteoblasts or stop osteoclasts from going overboard.